Hi, it's Stephen Lewis. This weekend, if you're heading out to the theaters, you can check out the re-release of Avengers Endgame with some new footage, of which will contain a preview for Spider-Man Far From Home, which will enter theaters over the 4th of July holiday. Now, I got a chance to sneak Spider-Man Far From Home, and I got to tell you, if you're waiting for Marvel to fail, it ain't going to come from this movie. This is spoiler-free, so if you haven't seen it yet, I am not going to spoil the entire thing for you. But let's get into it. Tom Holland back as Spider-Man. Jake Gyllenhaal joins the Marvel Universe as the classic Spider-Man villain Mysterio. If you don't, a little background on the Mysterio villain from the comic books. He was a stuntman that kind of got upset at Spider-Man and used his special effects skills to kind of rob banks and do part-time crime. This time around, he goes with a bigger twist and even gets involved with Nick Fury and Maria Hill from S.H.I.E.L.D. This picks up shortly after Avengers Endgame. The one spoiler I will give you by now, if you don't know, Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man, did not survive the events of Avengers Endgame. So we pick up in a war where it's 5 years after the snap. Everybody has been brought back, losing 5 years of their life. Peter's back in high school with his friends, and the world is trying to figure out how it's going to move forward without Iron Man. And a lot of times they start looking to Spider-Man to take up the mantle and be that new hero. It's a responsibility that Peter doesn't want. This time around, after saving the world and things calming down, he just wants to go on a class trip and see where his feelings for MJ go. MJ, of course, played by Zendaya. I love Zendaya, but I have a real problem with Marvel kind of messing with the Mary Jane Watson character from the comics. I can't imagine there being two MJs, but if that's where they're going, we'll see how it all pans out. This time around, they go overseas, and they actually end up going to a bunch of different countries, and we see a bunch of different versions of Spider-Man, all of which are really cool. I was a big Andrew Garfield fan. I thought when Sony rebooted Spider-Man a couple of years back, Andrew Garfield, to me, was a pretty good choice to play him because he had that look. But Tom Holland is growing on me. He's kind of the quirky, younger Spider-Man. They're keeping him young for a reason, which is a good thing. And I like where they're going with this. Jake Gyllenhaal is fantastic. If there's a standout in the movie, it's this guy right here. Happy to see him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And their realistic take on Mysterio works for the movie. They also kind of throw a twist on some old Spider-Man villains like the Sandman and Hydro Man and make them work a little differently for this movie as they go around. The best part about Spider-Man is he's a character with heart. You saw at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming where it wasn't necessarily Spider-Man relying on the tech gadgets that Stark gives him. It was more he had the heart and the will to kind of keep going, and that's what this Spider-Man carries on. We get some classic Easter eggs and nods to the comic. We finally start to see some of that pulled into this version of the Spider-Man universe, which is a good thing to see. There's also a couple of post-credit scenes. One is just the usual comedic Marvel stuff that they do. The other one is a complete game changer going forward. Love where they're going with this, but there's a lot of rumors out there that there's only one more, if not this one, Spider-Man movie where Sony is going to take back the reins. Hopefully they don't. I hope they're smart enough to kind of let Spider-Man play in the Marvel Universe and then do their own thing with the character on their own and see what happens. Sure, it might be a little confusing to audiences, but I think right now, given that there's no more Captain America, there's no more Tony Stark, you kind of want to see where Spider-Man goes. Is it worth the watch? Absolutely. Should you see it on the big screen? For sure. It is the final chapter of Marvel's Phase 3 before they move into Phase 4. It sets up a lot of things. It picks up a lot of things and answers some questions from Avengers Endgame. But the best part about it is it's Spider-Man on the big screen, home in the Marvel family where he belongs, and the casting is absolutely perfect. There's a surprise that's not at the end of the movie that comes actually within the movie. I won't ruin it for you because I said this is spoiler free, but if you are going to spend your money over the 4th of July weekend to see a movie, make sure you see Spider-Man Far From Home because once again, it is another home run for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if you do go see it, shh, no talking, please.